Well, thank you for joining with me for this week's midweek video. With this little series that we're doing, what we're trying to look at is the 10 essentials to our sanctification process. When we're trying to become more like Christ, what are the 10 essentials, or what is that composed of? And so the first one that we're going to be looking at today is a new identity in Christ. It's something that we are trying to get as we walk on this path of sanctification. So an example of this that we would find in the scriptures would be like Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. And it says this. It says, "I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me." So it says here at the beginning of Galatians that I have been crucified with Christ, meaning I have died to myself. And that's an important piece of when we become a believer in Jesus Christ, to recognize that what we once were was not as good as our potential of who we were created to be. And I don't mean that in you're not a good enough person, that God doesn't love you. He loves you as a created being. You've always been created in God's image. The problem is we were very marred, right? We were on a course where we deserved hell, eternal separation from God. But Jesus comes and pays the price for us that takes away our biggest problem that we had, that we could do nothing to solve. And he comes and he provides a way so we can be with eternity with him, and removes the punishment that we deserve of having to go to hell because of our rebellion against him. And so that's who we once were. Who wants to stay there and say, well, I was quite content living with an eternal destination of eternal fire, gnashing of teeth, eternal darkness, and separation, right? That's where I wanted to stay and be glad into. No, we were removed from that. And so we died to our old self, and then we're raised new in the work of Jesus Christ. So it's like we're born again, right? That's the terminology. And so we want to live in that. And so we've been crucified with Christ. And so it's no longer us that live, right? God the Father isn't looking at us through the works we have done, but he's looking at us through the works of what his Son Jesus Christ did. Because being born into him, his righteousness is then placed upon us. So it's Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, right? I'm still physical flesh here. I didn't literally die. But the life I still live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, right? Trusting everything that Jesus said. And he loved me, and he gave himself for me. So the first piece we want to do is we want to recognize we have a new identity in Christ. That though we still fall short of the glory of God, we still make mistakes and sin, and we'll talk about this in future videos, not habitual sins, not purposely living in sin, but we make those mistakes. We don't have to feel condemned about them because we are a new creation. We have a new identity in Jesus Christ, and we have forgiveness for those sins. But we want to live a life that's worthy of the work that Jesus Christ, because though salvation is free, it wasn't free to Jesus. He paid a mighty price for that. And so we want to honor that with our lives and realize we're a new creation. We're not who we once were. We're born into a relationship. We're adopted into the family of God. And so we want to live that out. Obviously, there's more that we could say about this, but for now, let's just leave it at that.